Hey there, Danny here. Welcome to my ramblings. I think my mind's sleeping, so we should be okay. I shouldn't say his name. Today I want to talk to you. I'm going to start out with talking to you about children. So, whether you're a parent, have already been a parent, or have never had children, you will all understand what I'm saying here. So children are dependent on the adults that are in charge of the household. That's generally how it works. Children don't have a say over a lot of things. So in order to get their way, children will throw tantrums. They'll attempt to manipulate. They'll lie. They'll play games to try to figure out how they can get what they want. Sometimes the attention they get for it is not the greatest because they get punished. Sometimes it's not that big of a deal. We can let them have it type thing. But all children lie, manipulate, and try to break the boundaries. That's what children do. They break boundaries. They lie and they manipulate. They're learning the world around them. Think about it. Newborn baby comes into the world. They've never seen a television. They've never seen a dog or a cat, or they've never seen any of the zoo animals. They've never seen any of the cool rides they have at the fairs and the fun parks and things like. They've never seen anything. They've never even seen the inside of a store or a car or anything. And as they grow up, as they learn to sit up and crawl and walk and talk and eat on their own and go out into being into grade school, if they don't go to preschool, everything in the world is new to them. So they're controlled. We do all of the control over children. We do. It has to be done because while we have the children, our children, we are supposed to be teaching them manners and politeness. We're supposed to be teaching them human decency, and we're supposed to be teaching them right and wrong so they can be productive. I don't want to use the word productive. So they can be emotionally mature adults when the time comes that they need to. Your job is to set them up for a more successful future. That's more than just school and work and material possessions. You are supposed to be teaching children how to have healthy relationships, how to communicate. Those are all very important pieces of what you're supposed to teach your children. We don't teach them that part because we have the mentality that we control them. You really don't, because if you controlled them, then they would never do anything wrong. If you had control over your child, over any child, they would never do anything wrong. They would do exactly everything you said. And can you imagine that child would be like robotic without its own individual uniqueness? That would be sad and weird. But anyways, the reason that I'm talking to you about children is when those children grow up, they become one of two things. Either they become a grown-up who has learned that now they're a grown adult. They have responsibilities. They have to take care of things. They have to take, if they want a relationship, they have to put in the work and they have to be willing to do it, be part of it and everything else. Or they grow up and never outgrow their childhood, their childishness. So these are adult children. And I don't care if it's a man or a woman. I don't care what sex the person is. Literally, if it is a man or a woman, they will play games with you. A grown-up will not play games with you. They will be honest. They'll be outright. They'll be real about everything. They won't be afraid. They won't want to hurt your feelings on purpose. But if there's some issue they have with you, they will come talk to you about it. They will have a conversation with you about it. Not everybody else, but you. And if they can't come to you for that, then that person is an adult child. It is not your job to mommy or daddy that guy or that girl. It's not your job. Stop thinking that this man needs a mommy, so I'm going to fit the bill. No, if he is a childish adult, tell him to go back to his real mommy. Because he's not doing anything for you. He's not doing anything for society other than making himself look like a complete loser that cannot grow up. Because he's still living in his heyday of his teens or his 20s. Ridiculous. Or you have the woman who never grew up, who's an adult child, and she's out being the gold digger. Why should I have to work? Some of them will have multiple children with multiple fathers and sit on aid and not think anything of it because they shouldn't have to work. They will meet men and be in relationships with men, and they will expect the men to foot everything, and they don't have to do a thing. Those are not grown women. Those are adult children. They are stuck in their teens and their 20s, and they think that they can go through life this way. I don't care. I don't care about what everybody says about anything else. The truth is, you have grown-ups and you have adult children. And the adult children, whether man or woman, are not capable of having a healthy relationship with you. They can't. It's impossible. And it has nothing to do with you. And nothing you do, not a thing that you do, say, or anything will ever cause them to grow up. The only way they can ever grow up is when they look at themselves. When they learn to find their true authentic self and love themselves, then that's when they'll grow up. But they're not going to grow up because they don't want to. Why should they? They're getting something out of not being grown up. They're getting some sort of benefit. Whether people cater to them and give them what they want or it doesn't matter. But there's going to come a point that these adult children, they're going to hit their 40s and their 50s and especially when they get into their 60s, you're going to find that they have limited company. They don't have a lot of friends anymore. They're usually single. Can't get into a relationship because they never grew up. Once most of us hit our 40s and 50s, we're done. If you haven't grown up by now, I don't have time to wait for you. Why we were all convinced that we needed to give men time to grow up? Bullshit. The minute you are old enough to be a legal adult, you are old enough to be a grown-up and know how to treat somebody and know how to not be this spoiled little brat who plays manipulation and games and throws tantrums when they can't get their way. This is an adult child. I don't care man or woman. That's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. They're both pretty much the same. They're just childish. They are not capable of having a relationship with any grown adult. That more than likely, the relationships that they do have are going to be relationships or marriages of convenience, or it's going to be highly toxic. Because they're just not grown up. And a lot of people that get stuck with the childish, a lot of people that get stuck with it are codependent. But they're codependent because they haven't grown up themselves. And I can speak on that because I was codependent too. And it took me a while before I could even acknowledge that part of it. But a lot of that will come from dealing with, especially if you had parents that were alcoholics. you'll see those kids are very, they grow up to be codependent because that's what they're taught. They don't know anymore until they get out into the world and figure it out. And that's why I said, when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're supposed to be figuring your shit out. You're supposed to be getting a clue about being a grown-up. You make your mistakes. You have your fun. And then once you get into your 40s and 50s, it's about time to start being an actual grown-up and give up your childish adulthood. It's ridiculous. And if you can't, then just know that once you hit into your 50s and your 60s, I guarantee you that you're going to be alone. Nobody's going to want to be around you. Nobody's going to want to tolerate you. You're going to be that creepy old person that sits somewhere alone and talks to everybody that passes by because they're so lonely. Why? Because you never grew up. The rest of society is over here growing up. We did our wild, crazy, dumb things. We all did when we were young. But if you don't grow up from being an adult child, you're going to end up alone. Nobody's going to want to be with you because grown-ups don't want to deal with manipulation and game playing. Just be real, be open, be honest. And the truth is, the biggest thing is adult children want to, they want to not have boundaries with you. That is your number one clue that this human being is not a grown-up. They will not respect boundaries. And you don't have to verbally say boundaries. They should automatically respect your boundaries. As a normal human being, we all are entitled to certain boundaries. Don't touch me unless I've given you a sign or I've told you, yes, touch me. They're not gonna come in and just start taking your stuff and using it for themselves without asking. There's lots of things that are boundaries that don't have to be spoken. And if you are dealing with somebody who is an adult and they don't have the basic boundaries and they can't respect those boundaries, that tells you they're not a grown-up. They're an adult child. They're looking for a mommy or a daddy. They're not looking for a real relationship. So that's the easiest way to be able to weed the people out, is typical boundaries. Please and thank you. You got to have your manners. You've got to, first time you go over to somebody's house, you don't just wander around and touch things or whatever. You ask permission. You ask, for things. That's polite. Those are boundaries. You don't just walk into somebody's house that you just met and open their fridge and start getting stuff out. Because if you do, what are you, 2? Get over yourselves. Grow up. That's ridiculous. But the truth is, these simple boundaries that are unspoken boundaries, if they cannot have common courtesy and these basic simple boundaries, know that eventually they will be breaking every other boundary of yours and making you lose your mind. So pay attention to the boundaries that they have. Are they polite? Do they have manners? Do they just come in and feel so comfortable that they can just whatever? If you are not at that stage in a friendship, a relationship, anything, then any behavior would be odd. It would be crossing boundaries, unspoken boundaries, because we all should have unspoken boundaries. And they should all pretty much be the same. You don't get into somebody's car that you just met, that you're carpooling with, and start changing their radio channels. If you do, you're a child. Grow the hell up. I mean, come on. Where's your manners? If you don't like the song, you can be like, oh, do you mind if I change this? I'm not a fan of this. You can ask. That would be a grown-up. That would be a grown-up. Or if it's not a long ride, you can just fucking tolerate it. Wait until you get out. But the truth is, it's the simple unspoken boundaries that are important, because that will tell you right from the beginning if they can overstep those simple basic boundaries, they're going to step over all of the other boundaries too. So once you start to recognize they're overstepping any type of little boundaries, because if they really want to be in a relationship with you, friendship, significant other, doesn't matter. If somebody that you just meet wants to really be in a relationship with you, they want to build some sort of relationship with you, they're going to be polite because they don't know where your full-on boundaries are. So they're going to put on their best behavior, and they're going to get to know you. As they get to know you, you'll be able to be a little bit more open with them. But you're going to learn as you go along building that relationship. You're going to learn their boundaries as they're going to learn yours. Because there's going to be certain things that you'll have conversations on. You'll be like, oh, I could never handle that. You know, and they might be like, oh, okay. And so if they see this type of scenario around, they'll be like, oh no, don't have this person over because they're not okay with that. You pay attention. You want what's in the best interest of the other person, not just yourself. And if the small boundaries are being broken, it's only a matter of time before the big boundaries will be broken. The thing is sometimes we don't always recognize that a boundary is being broken. Because, you know, the other person could be purposely breaking the boundary to see how far they can push you. And again, that is an adult child. That's not a grown-up. A grown-up would never play such a silly game with you. A grown-up would get to know you on mutually acceptable terms, as in, okay, we're just dating, okay, we want to see each other and get to know each other, but you know, I have a busy life, you have a busy life, we're only going to see each other 2, 3, whatever days out of a week, if that's possible. Maybe it's only a few times a month. It doesn't matter. The point is when you are building a relationship with another human being, you slowly but surely start to learn, this is we need this amount, you know, we can only have this amount here right now. And then you add to it as you go. The problem is people who want to cross boundaries, people who are still an adult child. They're manipulative, they play games, they don't know how to have boundaries themselves. The problem with them is those people won't be good for you. There's no way they could have a healthy relationship with you. But people who don't do these things, people who have grown up from this, can see other people that are doing this a mile away. And it's kind of funny because here's the funniest part. So, like I said, I started this journey, 5 years ago, in 2020. And when I look back over the last 5 years and the people, I've been able over the last 5 years with the healing and the learning to love myself and find my true authentic self, I have been able to look, I have been manipulated and played games with my whole entire freaking life. My whole entire freaking life. 100%. And I don't blame the other people. I blame myself because I allowed it. I allowed it. I knew. I just didn't want to step up and say anything. That was the codependent in me. But the truth is, as I've started to walk this journey the last 5 years, it's kind of funny because the more I get to loving myself and finding my true authentic self, people that I've dealt with from my past will have conversations, and I'm okay having conversations with them, but I can see their manipulation, I can see their games miles ahead of time. And as you start to do that, I literally would start telling them, whoa, that is rude. I'm not going to tolerate this. and you know, I would tell them they can go ahead and decide that they're gonna show respect and have boundaries next time they interact with me, or I'm just gonna cut them off because I don't have time for these games. I'm done playing these games. You want to play any manipulation games? I'm going to see it a mile away. I'm done. I don't have time for it. You're not mature enough, emotionally or mentally mature enough to have a relationship with me. You're not mentally mature enough to have a relationship with any grown-up. Because you're still an adult child. Grow up. Adults do not do these games. Only adult children. And we have too many of them out there. Anyways, I just kind of wanted to throw this out here at you. I wanted to explain it to you that the biggest thing that you're looking for when you're meeting new people is, do they cross boundaries? The simple, basic boundaries. You wouldn't just show up at a friend's house that you just met and walk in the house. You knock or ring the doorbell and be polite, right? Well, some people don't know how to do that. Some people will just think, oh, they told me to come over so I could just walk in. Well, they told you to come over, but that doesn't mean you just open the door and walk in. That's rude. Anybody who has stupid little boundaries like that they cannot keep without being told, that's not a grown-up. A grown-up knows they're not supposed to do that. It's a child, a toddler, that would not know that, would see the door and be like, oh, and want to open it. A grown-up doing it is pathetic. And like I said, simple boundaries, simple, normal, day-to-day boundaries that all of us have, they break. And they aren't breaking them. They aren't breaking them because they're stupid or because they're ignorant or because they don't know any better. They are breaking them to test how far they can break your boundaries. And if you are somebody who has a lot of patience and a lot of understanding, they're going to push you quite far. And the problem, though, is when they're dealing with a grown-up, especially one that's been healed from all this crap, they're not going to be polite about it. They're not going to be mean. They're not going to be cruel. You're not going to get called names. You're just going to be told, grow the fuck up. You're acting like an immature fuck, and I'm not dealing with it. Bye. There's nothing rude about that. They're not acting. They know what they're doing. Anybody breaking even your basic human boundaries, anybody breaking them knows that they're breaking them. They're doing it on purpose to see how far that they can push you. Because the farther they can push you, the more they can use you. So, if they're breaking basic, simple boundaries, walk away. They're not your people. You're not going to have healthy relationships with them, friendship or otherwise. Anyways, I'm going to let you go. Hopefully, I'll be back in a day or two. I've been busy working and everything else. It's starting to warm up in here now since I got home. I got the heater on. Anyways, have a nice night, guys. I will see you in a day or two. Bye. Love ya.